Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm so glad you are joining me for the pre-church show. If we have never met, my name is Jason Raitz. I would love to meet you. Please, 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 please comment. Please, please let me know where you're watching from. Would love to know what is going on in your life. Now, just a reminder, the pre-church show, this is not meant to be a church. This is just some encouragement before you head off to church. Someone asked me not too long ago, why are you doing this? Well, because I've preached, I've taught the Bible for many, many years, and I miss doing it every single week. I told a friend not too long ago, I have 52 Sundays free. So when a church wants to invite me as a guest a speaker preacher, I would love that. Love that. I'll be in Michigan the weekend of June 11th. So I'll be preaching at a church in Grand Blanc, Michigan, Grumlaw Church. So if you're a church leader or you have a relationship with your church leader, you want to pass them this video to say, hey, I think this guy would be great. Thank you very much. But a word about giving up on church, because lots of people want to give up on church. Last year, last Father's Day, last summer was Father's Day 2022 was my very last Sunday as a paid vocational pastor. And now it's almost been a year that I'm not a paid vocational pastor. And someone asked me not too long ago, did you come close to giving up on church? The answer is yes. Yes, I've come close to giving up on church for many, many years. Many, many years. And a lot of people are giving up on church because of, all the scandals and the hurt and this and the that. I just can't give up. I just believe that the church is the bride of Christ, that Christ loved the church so much that he died for the church, and that when he rose again and he ascended into heaven, he said, hey, I want you to steward the church because it's God's plan A for the world. So, would love for you to be as involved and engaged and growing in your local church home as you possibly can, and to not give up. Here we are in this series trying to figure out, is 1 Corinthians 13 love even possible? Real quick though, take a drink out of my Speak with People mug. See that right there? Very nice. Handcrafted from a friend. You can actually get that on the Speak with People store. There's a little shameless plug. But we are asking the question, is 1 Corinthians 13 love even possible? This chapter we've been going through verse by verse, and now actually like phrase by phrase. So we're just kind of going through this tediously so we can pull everything out for this. But I'm really curious what you think. Like, is this kind of love that Paul talks about even possible in 2023? Like, let's be honest. Like, is 1 Corinthians 13 love even possible? This book was originally written to the church of Corinth. Paul kind of had to send them a challenge. Like, they were getting in trouble in a lot of different ways. And he sent them this, and they were suing each other. They were all in lawsuits and fights. And he sent them this, and he goes, guys, we got to get this under control. And so what we've been talking about is this love possible in 2023? Like, can we love people like this in 2023? And I love this passage of scripture in 1 Corinthians 13:4. This is the new living NLT. It says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable. It keeps no records of being wrong. I can't wait to talk about that. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up. Love never loses faith. It's always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. And then in the New International Version, it says love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Oh my goodness, that is powerful stuff. And what we're trying to do in this series is to challenge you, to challenge me to choose love every time, every opportunity. Choose love. Now, a little refresher about love, because earlier in this passage of scripture, Paul talks about love. And he says, listen, if you don't have all of these super awesome things, but if you don't have love, it means nothing. And so when he talks about love, but if you don't have love, that love is either one of four different loves. It's eros, which is a erotic kind of love, storge, which is a family kind of love, phileo, which is brotherly kind of love, or like what he's talking about in 1 Corinthians 13, agape love. And here's just a refresher about agape love. Okay, agape love. Agape love is a love that loves without changing. It is a self-giving love that gives without demanding or expecting repayment. It's a love so great that it can be given to the unlovable and the unappealing. It's the love that loves even when it's rejected. Man, is this powerful stuff. Agape love gives and loves because it wants to. It doesn't demand. It doesn't expect repayment. It gives because it loves. It does not love in order to receive. I mean, this is the powerful thing about love. It's so ridiculously powerful. Now, in verse 4, we've talked about how love is patient. We define patience as the capacity to be wronged and not retaliate. We said the Greek, as you open that up, it's to take a long time to boil. So we said love is patient. And then love is kind. Kindness is victory over pleasing yourself or yourself, victory over pleasing yourself or your selfishness. It's caring more about others. And then we said love does not envy. That was last week. And again, if you missed any of these, just go to my YouTube channel, Jason Raitz Speaker. There's actually a podcast set up for the pre-church show. You can go over any of these. But we said love does not envy. Love keeps its distance from envy, and it does not resent it when someone else is promoted or blessed or gets further ahead than you. Oh, these are difficult. I mean, man, Paul is like just going to town. This is another way to look at it. I love this. Love is patient, love is kind, it doesn't envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. 8 things love is not. It's not envious, it's not proud, it's not arrogant, it's not rude, it's not cliquish, it's not touchy, it's not suspicious, it's not happy with evil. Well, that's freaking ridiculous because that is so. Let me put that back up. If I had to be honest and I had to go through and circle the ones for you right now that even this weekend I experienced and I felt I would be failing, because my goodness, that's how powerful God's love is for us. I mean, this weekend I just been struggling like crazy, struggling with some hurt, some friends who have ghosted me, some relationships that seem to be, I've got all these amazing relationships, and yet I center on, a couple of these ones that are, they just faded away, and it just hurts. And on top of that, I'm writing this book called Speak with People, Not at Them. Speak with people, not at them. And so the premise of the book is healthy communication is oxygen for your relationships and your leadership. Is oxygen. So when I communicate in healthy ways, it's oxygen. When I communicate in unhealthy ways, it sucks the life out of people. And when I communicate in healthy ways, it's when I speak with people. And when I communicate in unhealthy ways, it's when I speak at. And so the reality is I can become the kind of leader who chooses and uses words that breathe life into people instead of sucks the life out of them. And so I've written 13 healthy attributes for the with category and 13 toxic attributes. And wouldn't you know it, like as you write, as you try to get this stuff on paper, no wonder they say that writing is a labor of love. I mean, it's just like reminding me of, so many times when, as much as I value healthy communication, I sin and I hurt others with my communication. It's just hard. It's just so hard. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It's not puffed up. It does not behave rudely. It does not seek its own. It is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Okay, so we're going to tackle this next phrase. Last week we did love does not envy. Today, love does not boast. What does that even mean? What does it mean? Well, it means that boasting is parading yourself around. It's absolutely parading yourself. It doesn't need to show off. It's advertising yourself. A comedian years ago said the root word for boast is resume, right? This is what we do. Boasting is vulgar to love. Love does not need to parade itself around. Here's the reality. Love in action can work anonymously. It can work anonymously. It doesn't have to have the limelight or the attention to do a good job or to be satisfied with the result. Love just gives because it loves to give. No out of the sense of praise it can have from showing itself off. That's the crazy thing. Sometimes the people who seem to work the hardest at love are the ones the furthest from it. They do many things many would perceive as loving, yet they do it in a manner that parades themselves. Hey, look at me, look at me, look at what I do. This isn't love. It's pride for the glory by the appearance of love. Uh, one of my favorite authors, I mean, he's deep. He is hard to get through sometimes. C.S. Lewis, brilliant. He said, do not waste time bothering whether you love your neighbor. Act if you did. Act if you did. Well, that's powerful. Do you know, just a side note, I learned this last week. C.S. Lewis was turned down over 800 times to publish his books. Those of you who are like, oh, I'll never get ahead. I'll never get somebody to say yes. Let's go back up to that patience part, right? I mean, that's huge. There's this thing in the scientific community called the pecking order. The pecking order, some Norwegian naturalists came up with this. What they came up with after, watching basically a barnyard is that the alpha birds peck on the omega birds. Alpha means beginning, omega means end. Those alpha birds peck. Do you know alpha birds? I mean, there's always an alpha bird in our high school, right? I mean, I could name a couple names. I won't. Rich, you know who you are. Just kidding. But he was the one who pecked, right? I mean, he just had to make fun of or dump books or bully or, those kind of things. Here's the reality. Jesus blasts the alpha birds. He flipped the pecking order and he humbled himself. I mean, here he is, the Son of God, and he flips the pecking order. In Matthew 23, there's this fantastic passage of scripture. And it's kind of called the woe to me chapter from Jesus. And in this one, he blasts people. I mean, he specifically blasts the Pharisees. And so he says, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Oh my goodness. Then he says, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You travel over land and sea to win a single convert. And when you've succeeded, you make them twice as much a child of hell as you are. Holy cow, Jesus. Like, so often we get wrapped up in that Jesus is like this, super kind and passionate. And he is super kind. I mean, he is the epitome of kindness and compassion. But man, he packs some punch. There's a theologian who says the true target of this discourse, right? This chapter, Matthew 23, this conversation is the crowds and disciples who needed to break free from Pharisaic legalism, right? The Pharisees brought all this legalism. They wanted to make sure that the Old Testament laws were lived out. And Jesus time and time again was like, whoa, I came to fulfill the old covenant. I am the new covenant. And so laws like do not steal, he took to a whole other area. Don't even think about it. Do not kill. Do not even think hate towards someone. There's another theologian, William Barclay, and he describes the 7 types of Pharisees. Okay, the 7 types of Pharisees. So maybe, just maybe, you can see yourself in some of these and see what you think. The first one, the shoulder Pharisee. I mean, they wore all their good deeds and righteousness on their shoulder for everyone to see. The wait a little Pharisee. We always intended to do good deeds, but we always could find a reason for not doing them until later. Not now. The bruised or the bleeding Pharisee, who was so holy that he would turn his head away from any woman seen in public. Therefore, he was constantly bumping into things and tripping because he was so holy. The humpback Pharisee, who was so humble that he walked bent over and barely lifting his feet so everyone could see just how humble he was. The always counting Pharisee, who was always counting up his good deeds and believed that if you put God in debt to him for all the good he had done. The fearful Pharisee, who did good because he was terrified that God would strike him with judgment. And then the God-fearing Pharisee, who really loved God, and did good deeds to please the God he loved. I mean, those are tough, right? You could see why Jesus, the woe is me. Let's go to another part of that that chapter, Matthew 23, 23 to 24. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you've neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides! You strain out a gnat, but swallow a camel. Jeez. Goodness. I mean, can you imagine standing there in that day? Sorry, I'm just getting so excited. Because can you imagine standing there and Jesus is teaching this and the Pharisees are like, we're going to kick the beef out of that guy. Okay. Then there another one. This whole chapter is just rich of these, but Matthew 23, 27, 28. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside, you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside, you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. Hypocrisy and wickedness. Oh my goodness. Like, can you relate to any of this? Oh, man. That's why, like, as we're asking this question, is 1 Corinthians 13 love even possible? Whew. Man, there's so much hate out there. So much hate. I love this quote by D.L. Moody, the great evangelist around the turn of the century. The world does not understand theology or dogma, but it understands love and sympathy. Love and sympathy. When it says love does not boast, love does not boast. Max Lucado wrote in a great book, I don't remember the title at the moment, but one of Max's 50 or 80 or 100 amazing books. He said he went from commanding angels, this is Jesus, to sleeping in straw, holding the stars in his hands, to clutching Mary's finger. The palm that held the universe took the nails of the soldiers. Whew, that's powerful. When I was 23, I watched my dad care for his dad in my grandfather's last, year of life. And it was tremendously humbling. I still think about the 4 a.m., 3:30 in the morning, my dad getting up to drive a couple miles over to his grandfather's apartment because his grandfather didn't want to get into a nursing home. Or his dad didn't want to get in a nursing home. So my dad would go over and he'd fill his insulin needles. He would help his dad up. He would brush his teeth. He would comb his hair. He'd help him go to the bathroom. He'd help him change him. I think of that amazing kind of love. I didn't hear my dad brag about it. Oh, I'm doing all this stuff for my dad. I just never heard him brag about it. And it was just so incredibly powerful. And it's just a constant reminder to me. Choose love every time, every opportunity. Choose love every time, every opportunity. Now, with that being said, I just want to encourage you to do everything you can to choose love. And I hope that we can live out 1 Corinthians 13 love in 2023. And so I'd love to know. Please comment. Let me know in the comments. What's the toughest part, especially as you listen to this, from living out this kind of love? I would just be honored. Thanks for being a part of this community. I'm just so honored. I would love to pray for you. I should have put my email up. I'll do it next week. jason@speakwithpeople.com. Speaking of kind of fun, I found my first business card. I had to make it because I didn't really have any budget at the church. So I made this bad boy in clip art. My wife printed it. And but my email is jason@speakwithpeople.com. I'd love to pray for you. Please shoot me a prayer request. Would love to figure out how we can I can do that and help you with that because we know we need the prayer. Well, thank you for being a part of the Pre-Church Show. Can't wait till next week when we dive into the next part of 1 Corinthians 13. We will see you then.